Hello everyone and welcome back to my guide on how to get the There Is No Spoon achievement on default settings. This is the long overdue second half of the blue tech era. Last time we entered the blue science era, but while we started blue research projects we only did low tech hard industrial work. Inserting modules, placing the solar field, expanding the furnace area, upgrading to red belts. We didn't actually get to do any of the big brain blue tech stuff yet. Today that's going to change. Put on your lab coat, because today we're going to do the highly skilled precision work and in the end we'll be ready for the high-tech era. We're going to start with everybody's favorite thing to postpone: advanced oil processing. For this we're going to want at least 40 electric pumps. Also pick up a few stacks of pipes and iron plates so you can make more underground pipes if you need them. First we need to take water to the oil refineries. All of your oil stuff can easily run on one single water source, so I expand the water pipe for my sulfur plants. Of course, if your oil refineries are next to water, it might be easier to just hook up a new water source. Just do that instead then. You can see that copy-pasting one oil refinery with all the inputs and outputs for advanced oil processing makes it easier to place the pipes now. After the water is connected, we can change the refineries over to advanced oil processing. We are connecting all of the output pipes now, but since we're not doing anything yet with the light and heavy oil, we need a bigger place to store it so it doesn't block up the system. Since light oil is produced in twice the quantity compared to heavy oil, we're going to use one tank for heavy oil and two tanks for light oil. By pumping in and out of every tank, you will get a better view of your oil reserves. And also, the tanks will fill up one by one instead of all at the same time. The basics of advanced oil processing are now set up. Now we just need to do something with it so it won't block up our system once the tanks are full. So let's start processing that oil. Set up two chemical plants producing lubricant right next to the heavy oil tank. We only need lubricant for the electric engines we're going to make now. We need 700 electric engines, so set up 14 assembling machines connected to the lubricant pipe. By the way, note that the blue tech list is way shorter than the green tech list. We're already on the last two research projects, which unlock the yellow and purple science packs. While the pipe reservoir fills up with lubricant, we can go to take the other ingredients from our buffer chests. We need 700 regular engines. And 1400 green circuits, which I already have, so back we go. Fill each assembler with 50 engines and 100 green circuits. 14 assemblers may seem a bit much, but it allows us to quickly craft all the electric engines we need in one go, without needing further supervision or more complicated setups. Before we continue to set up the advanced oil processing stuff, we're going to prepare a little reward for ourselves. For that we need to prepare 20 blue circuits in a temporary setup. For this you need 40 red circuits, 400 green circuits, and probably you need to temporarily steal the sulfuric acid from the batteries with a pump. Nice, I can't wait. I'm running around in anticipation of what the reward will be. The first light oil tank is already almost full. Fortunately we've got just the project for it. To launch a rocket we need 720 rocket fuel, which can be made entirely from light oil. Set up 10 assemblers in a straight line to make rocket fuel. As a general principle, make heavy and light oil first flow past the things it needs to produce, in this case rocket fuel, and only then continue the pipeline to the oil cracking area. This makes sure only the surplus gets cracked. Next to liquid light oil, we need solid fuel. For simplicity we use direct insertion, so we set up 5 chemical plants for solid fuel. Each will feed 2 rocket fuel assemblers. Continue the pipeline from the previous endpoint and lead it next to the solid fuel plants. Do not make loops or intersections. Later we will connect the light oil cracking from this new endpoint. Leading the light oil pipeline first past the rocket fuel area before it reaches the oil cracking facility will prevent light oil getting cracked in case there's a future light oil shortage. The rocket fuel plant will consume all light oil before it reaches the oil cracking facility. Now we just need to collect the rocket fuel in a chest. We need 720 rocket fuel, which happens to be exactly 1.5 steel chest. So place 2 chests and limit one of them to 24 slots. And that's it. That's all the advanced oil products we need to worry about. Now we just need to make sure that any surplus oil is cracked down to petroleum gas. For that I lay out 10 light oil crackers and 5 heavy oil crackers. While we don't need that many right now, we need the extra capacity once the rocket fuel chests are filled up. Even before bots you can make use of ghost placement. You can lay out the build without actually building it. Should you need to move something over one tile, and we all know that happens, at least you won't have to deconstruct everything again by hand. Another benefit of ghost blueprints is you can drag power poles over the blueprint like this and they will all get placed. Like I said before, one water source is plenty for all of the oil products, so we again extend this water pipe to supply the oil cracking facility. Great, water is connected, so now we just need to connect the oil pipes. Like I mentioned, don't draw it directly from the oil tanks, but lead it around the long way. The same goes for the heavy oil. It first needs to go past the lubricant plant and then to the oil cracking facility. Now, don't forget to connect the outputs. There's no need for fancy stuff, just connect them back to the main grid. And that's it. All of the advanced oil processing done in just 20 minutes. Now it's time to go claim our reward. For this super secret reward we are going to need 60 electric engines, as well as the 20 blue chips we made earlier. Yes, the moment has finally come. It's time to put on the man pants. More speed, no more crawling around the base. Well, until the battery runs out, which will inevitably happen, multiple times. Oh well. Nice! I wonder which highly scientific project is next on our list. Oh, I know! Let's work on crystalline solids formed from a chemical compound arranged in an orderly manner. Or in other words, it's time to build a stone mine? So yeah, the next high-tech project is a stone mine. You've seen me build enough mines, so here's a nice time lapse. We need 5 iron chests full of stone and 2 iron chests full of stone bricks. We need all of the stone for the purple science ingredients later. You could set this up in the early game, but the extra pollution can be an issue, so I advise waiting until you have efficiency modules. Split the stone from the stone mine 50-50 and lead the other half to some furnaces. The stone bricks are needed for electric furnaces as well as for the rocket silo, and the stone is needed for rails. You can either supply the furnaces with a coal belt like I do in the video, or simply insert a stack of coal in each furnace if you have some laying around. And this is a great example of why you always check if something works before you just run away. I do like the nostalgia of having the spaceship lying around, but it's getting in the way of a main boss, so unfortunately it will have to go. It is time to set up the last 2 items on the main boss, blue chips and low density structures. For the blue circuits we need red and green circuits as well as sulfuric acid. Set up 16 blue chips assemblers. You can use the copy paste function to ghost place the assemblers so that the pipe connection will already be oriented right. The inside belt will be for green circuits only, as we need a massive quantity of them. The output belt will be used both for supplying red circuits as well as outputting the blue circuits. By feeding the red chips on the near side of the belt, we keep space for outputting blue circuits on the far side of the belt. Whenever you use 3 inserters on one side like this, you either need to keep an empty space between every 2 assembly machines for power poles, or you'll be messing with underground belts in your supply lines. I choose the first option. See? No messing around with underground belts at all. Now we just need to hook up sulfuric acid and the blue chips build will be operational. The battery production seems to have finished, so we can pump back the sulfuric acid to the blue chips now. You can use this handy underground belt trick to block off the red chips. This is how we had to do it in the olden days, you know, when the grass was green, socks was dirty and priority splitters didn't exist. The blue circuit chest should be limited to 19 slots, but you'll mess it up later anyway, so don't worry too much about it. You can kickstart the blue chip production by hand inserting green chips, but keep at least 2000 green chips at hand for a later use. And here is the very last item on the main boss. Set up 20 assembling machines for low density structures. Here, copper is the main ingredient, so keep a full belt available for copper input, and join plastic and steel on the other input belt. Since it's the last item on the main boss, we don't need to worry about neatly splitting it off. Just join the entire belt together and lead it up there. We don't need to deal with fluid input here, so we can set it up a bit simpler, in a similar way to the red circuit and the engines build, with the input lanes down the middle and the output belt around the outside. Of course, we'll never have enough production to continuously feed 16 blue chip and 20 low density structure assemblers. But we have been buffering green chips and copper all game long. The reason we set up so many assembly machines is so we can hand feed copper and green circuits later to whatever is lagging behind the most, as you will see later. Oh yeah, and let's put up some lights so you can see something on YouTube as well. Now pay close attention. Low density structures are needed for both yellow signs as well as the rocket itself. We're going to set up chests in a very specific way. We first need 1200 low density structures for yellow signs, which is 3 chests limited to 40 slots each. These take priority, so let's use for that, a priority splitter I guess. Later, for the rocket itself, we need another 720 low density structures. That's again exactly 1.5 steel chest, similar to the rocket fuel we set up earlier. The next project is robot frames. The electric engines and batteries should have finished producing, so we can pick them all up and even reclaim the assembly machines. Besides 400 electric engines and 800 batteries, we also need 400 steel and 1600 green circuits. Set up 8 assembly machines for robot frames, and then insert 50 electric engines, 50 steel, 100 batteries and 200 green circuits in every one. Similar to the electric engine setup, this creates all the robot frames in one go without needing further supervision. You should have 240 electric engines left. 200 are for the rocket silo and 40 are surplus in case you made a mistake. Now that blue circuits and low density structures are up, it is finally time to make some mining expansions. You know, those things take ages to set up, especially when you need to account for balanced train loading systems and whatnot. Well, not today. We're going to have 2 mining expansions hooked up in about 10 minutes. Are you ready? We don't need to fill in the entire patch with miners, because we are aiming for maximum 1 full red belt of ore. That means 60 miners is more than enough. If your patch is large enough, you can set it up quick and dirty, like on this copper patch. 60 miners divided over 3 columns of 10 miners per side. Don't forget to insert the efficiency modules to keep the pollution output low. Connect one of the columns to the back of the other 2 with a splitter, and you'll have 2 outcoming belts with 15 miners per side. Exactly enough to fill 2 yellow belts. Combine those 2 yellow belts with a red splitter into a single, fully compressed red belt, take it back to the base and it's done. Back at the base, join the new ore belt with the old one, but give input priority to the old belt. This will keep the pollution output as far away from the biters as possible. Now that took only about 3 minutes to set up. How is that for a mining expansion? Now we finally get to see the entire stack of copper smelters light up. Nice! Now it's time for the iron expansion. We have 2 big patches up north and 1 small patch nearby home. I'm going to hook up the small one to show off a different external patch setup and to demonstrate that you can get away with less than a full belt of extra ore. There's just no way this patch fits 60 miners, so we're going to use the compact miner setup like at the home base, to fit as many miners on the patch as possible. How many miners do you think will fit? Place your bets now. $50 miners on this small patch, that's probably more than you'd expected. Because we researched Mining Productivity 1, that gives 88% of a red belt of ore. Not bad. We have 3 output belts here. The middle one is nicely balanced with an equal amount of miners per side, but the outer 2 ones aren't. So we'll give them a super simple belt balancer before joining up the 3 output belts. There's no need for a balanced 3-to-1 splitter to join the belts. Just join them up with red splitters one after the other. This method of mining expansion is a little bit more time consuming to set up, but if the patch is too small to support 60 miners, we want to take the maximum out of the ore patch. We connect the iron belt in the same way like the copper belt. But because we have 2 incoming iron belts, we need to divide the extra ore supply over those 2 belts using a splitter. Again, give input priority to the home iron patch. You likely won't have enough iron ore to fully supply both iron furnace stacks, but that's okay. We've been stashing overproduction into steel plates all game long, and the endgame relies mostly on copper for blue circuits and low density structures anyway. When you get back, put any leftover efficiency modules in machines that are working most of the time. A good indicator is, if it's working right now, it probably is working most of the time. Around this time, all productivity modules have likely been produced. If so, switch the machines over to speed modules, but don't start producing them yet. We need the red chips soon for a different project, so cut off the supply line to the module area. It may not look like it, but we're almost ready to start producing the last 2 science packs. In preparation of that, set up 5 assemblers for purple signs and 4 assemblers for yellow signs, and keep space for a row of beacons down the middle. Feel free to set it up a little bit more roomy than I did here. I'm a little bit crammed in, but it will still work. Each assembly machine gets its own supply chest. They will be used for low density structures for yellow signs and rails for purple signs. Then put 2 master chests on top to keep track of the other required resources for the science packs. We are now ready to enter the end game. Next time.